Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday, September 19th, 2025. Born on this date in 1926, 46th governor of the state of Alabama, Lurleen Wallace of Tuscaloosa. And in 1950, musician Keith Grimwood of Birmingham. He's one half of the duo Trout Fishing in America. And who doesn't love a little trout fishing? It's National Talk Like a Pirate Day. That's definitely not mandatory, especially if you work in the next cubicle over. Today we have an interview that Lawrence Specker did with acclaimed singer, songwriter, musician, and longtime Jimmy Buffett collaborator Mac McAnally. That'll be after the break. First, we have news items on the Choose Act and athletics, a company that says the trade wars won't be stopping its construction, and an expanded drought. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. From improving emergency response times to protecting against cyber attacks, local, state, and federal governments are innovating with Google AI. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American Innovation.
Alabama's political leadership and the Alabama High School Athletic Association are still butting heads over the eligibility of students who transfer via the Choose Act, reports AL.com's Mike Cason. Now, under the Choose Act, the state's latest school choice program, some students use around $7,000 in state funds to pay for private school or homeschooling education. Now, according to AHSAA rules, students who receive financial aid to transfer are ineligible to play athletics for 1 year. And the AHSAA says that $7,000 in education savings accounts awarded via the Choose Act falls under those rules. Governor Kay Ivey and Alabama House Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter filed a lawsuit to block enforcement of that rule on Choose Act transfers, and enforcement has been temporarily blocked while that lawsuit runs its course. And now, Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth has said he'll bring legislation to reform high school athletics, and he's even threatening to replace the AHSAA, which has been around since 1921. He's asked the public for input on changes that could be made. An AHSAA attorney issued a statement Thursday stating there is a legislative process within the organization in which member schools make and change rules, but that the AHSAA enforces those rules once they're in effect. Stephen Moore was a senior economic advisor to President Trump's 24 presidential campaign, and he had an opinion piece published in the Wall Street Journal this week arguing that tariffs on aluminum are having more negative than positive effects. But a company that's building a big aluminum plant in Bay Minette takes issue with his assertion that it might cease construction because of the tariffs, reports AL.com's William Thornton. Actually, according to Novelis, it may expand plans on the $4.1 billion plant. Now, that'd be good economic news in Bay Minette, where Novelis is expected to employ up to 1,000 people by late next year. However, a spokesperson for Novelis said, for its investment in a phase 2, it would need, quote, targeted and time-limited tariff exemptions for the material we must import from our overseas locations to meet U.S. customer demand until Bay Minette comes online, end quote. And the U.S. Drought Monitor's weekly report shows increasing drought conditions across the state of Alabama, reports AL.com weather reporter Lee Morgan. Less than 10% of the state is drought-free, with most of the state at the very least drier than average. The driest part of the state is in Marengo County, which qualified for severe status. And while you probably won't need your hip waders next week either, the good news, or at least the okay news, is that most folks ought to see at least a few raindrops over the next week, particularly in the northwest part of the state. Hey, let's take a really quick break to buy the house band some takeout. We'll be back with McAnally. Y'all stay with us.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hey, thanks for sticking around, folks. The following interview actually took place last month. AL.com's Lawrence Specker caught up with musician, singer, songwriter, and choral reefer McAnally on a bunch of topics. Alabama likes to claim at least part of Mac's origin story. He was born in Red Bay and grew up across the state line in Mississippi and spent some quality time playing his guitar in Muscle Shoals. Now, like I said, this interview was leading into a busy August for McAnally. The Coral Reefer Band of Jimmy Buffett fame had been on the road with the Doobie Brothers. McAnally received the Academy of Country Music's Poets Award, and he had recently appeared at Kenny Chesney's residency in Las Vegas. That's a long way from Red Bay. So again, the tense has changed to past for much of this interview, but it still has some great insight and reflection and is worth your time, especially if you're a music fan. Here's Lawrence interviewing Mac.
I think the last time we talked, the Coral Reefers had just finished their sound check for the Orange Beach show last year. And,
yes.
And at that moment, it was really unknown whether it was going to work. I remember you saying, hey, maybe we only get these 3 shows. That's the worst case scenario, but that's a great worst case scenario. So, the first thing I want to ask about is just when you look back on that show and those 3 shows, what did those show you and show the fan base, do you think?
I think it showed what a family of supporters that Jimmy built over 5 decades of touring with his music. All of us, all of the Reefers and all of our crew came together because of him, and all of that entire fan base came together because of work that he did as long as he was on the earth. He loved playing more than anything. And, we didn't know, and nobody knew in his absence how strong of an urge that would be for those folks that have been coming every year for all these decades. And it meant a lot to us to play for them, and it clearly meant a lot to them to come. And consequently, for as long as we get to keep doing it, as it turns out, as you said, the worst case scenario wasn't the case. But we get to keep playing for some period of time, and we don't ever know exactly how long it is. Just like life, we don't know how long we have. But I know that we're going to enjoy the privilege of playing Jimmy's songs to Jimmy's fans for as long as it serves them a purpose.
That really was the experience for me too. That it wasn't just a tribute show where we're sitting watching some folks play Jimmy Buffett songs. It was the feeling. The feeling was there.
It's a heart. Those experiences, the shared common experiences of folks from the tailgate in the parking lot to sitting at home and teaching their kids and their grandkids these songs. There's generational connection to Jimmy's music in a way that playing his songs is not really like a nostalgia show. There's a lot of tours, and there's nothing wrong with nostalgia tours, but that's not what Jimmy's music is. It's current to people. It's not attached to a piece of time when they were dating 35 years ago. It's now, and that's a remarkable achievement for a writer and for an artist to feel current across generations.
Moving forward a few months into this year, you popped up at the Sphere with Kenny Chesney, and that is pretty amazing to me. I mean, that venue it's almost 2 years old, but in the great scheme of things, there are not a lot of artists in the world who've played that stage. So
That's 100% true, and I'll add to it that for the first time you get to see the Sphere to be from the stage, it's not something that many folks will get to say. But what an amazing place, and I've known Kenny a long time, and he it's hard for that guy to surprise me because I know how hard he works and I know how much effort he puts into a show. But he surprised me. What a wonderful show he put together. And, he and I did a little acoustic set in the middle of the last two shows that he did there. And it was just pure joy. And we did a little tribute to Jimmy in the middle of that, too. He and I did come one day, and the whole crowd sang. And it was, I get chill bumps just remembering it on a Zoom call here.
Well, my impression is that wasn't announced. You came out as kind of a surprise. Is that correct?
No, that is correct. He had guests throughout his stay at the Sphere, but he didn't want any of them to be announced. So other than my family, and we let Jimmy's family know. His sister Lulu came. Because Kenny knew what we were going to do, and he wanted her to be able to see that. So other than those couple of folks, nobody really knew that it was happening. And I don't know how big of a deal it would have been for somebody to know that I was coming anyway. That might have been a disappointment as opposed to a plus to the show. But Kenny, thankfully Kenny can sell the shows out by himself.
Well, one thing that impresses me about that is that a lot of times if you're at a show and they bring out a special unannounced guest, it's a quick one and done. It's one song and
True.
Thanks much, see you. But this was really a substantial little multi-song set within a set, and he afterward called it pure joy, which is a pretty good compliment, I would think.
Well, I tend to agree with Kenny a lot, but I agree in that case too. It was pure joy for me as well. It had a little bit to because Kenny and I have written several songs, and he's been a great advocate of some of my best songs with Back Where I Come From, but he got up and sat in with me at the Ryman early at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
And my first show as a headline at the Ryman, which is another thing I never imagined would happen in my life. But at any rate, Kenny was an unannounced guest at my show, and he thankfully that show was sold out, but he would have finished selling it out if it hadn't been yet. But at any rate, that during the course of that show, he had never seen my solo show before, and one of the songs I wrote for other people is 2 Dozen Roses, and I played 2 Dozen Roses that night at the Ryman, and after the show he went, "You blanking wrote 2 Dozen Roses?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "How did I not know that? I sang that in bars as a cover song." And so when we went to the Sphere, he goes, "We're going to do 2 Dozen Roses." And we're working it up with. And so that's not something I would have ever expected to do. And honestly, in addition to being a world of first, playing the Sphere and seeing the Sphere for the first time, I had actually never sung 2 Dozen Roses with a band in my life, even though it's my song. So to get to do that at the Sphere with 18,000 folks as a witness, it was pretty amazing.
I imagine when you bring out Kenny as a special guest, you see everybody in the crowd do this.
you see the back of a lot of phones. You do, as a matter of fact.
One last question about the Sphere. I mean, obviously, when you take that stage, obviously it's a crowd approaching 20,000 people. But what do you see visually that's different than other amphitheaters or whatever?
Well, given that it's 18,000 people, they're pretty remarkably close to you. The size of the scale of that thing is hard to fathom until you're actually in it. But the seats go up kind of quick, and in the case of Kenny's show, his Sphere is a little bit different because he's always had that what he calls the sandbar, the standing right in front of the stage.
Yeah.
And that's a small area in the Sphere because the seats go up quick, and you kind of want them to because of all the visual content of the way that building is laid out. For what I understand about the the normal shows at the Sphere, the seats right in front of the stage are really kind of the worst seats in the place because all the video is happening above your head, behind it. You have to get sort of chiropractic to experience the whole thing. But in the case of Kenny, he had those live fans in the sandbar standing right in front of him, so he could play to them just like it's a bar gig, just like it's an exciting club gig. Whereas in normal situation, I've heard some of the bands say, the folks that are seated that right in front of them are really looking up at the video. Nobody's really looking at the stage. Yeah. So I think that's a smart thing that Kenny did, was to have those sort of ravenous fans interacting with him personally right up at the stage. And, and they can come see another show and sit back and watch all the visuals.
Right.
Or at least that's how I interpreted it. And I thought he did that very well. So.
Well, cool. The tour with the Doobies before the shows last summer, that would have been hard to imagine, but that sort of opened the way for you guys to do something like this. But you've got a few of these shows under your belt now. So what has that?
We have. It's amazing, and the Doobies have a fair amount in common with Jimmy in that they're so good and they're so professional, and they're based around some really good people. Their staff, their crew from top to bottom are just high quality people, and Jimmy was always that way. He recruited great people. So to be able to interface with that group and to have such a reverence for what they have done at the same time, and they do for Jimmy. Over the years, Jimmy opened shows for the Doobies, and then there were times when they opened shows for him later on, and the careers have gone back and forth, and they're still just as viable as they're one of the great American rock and roll bands that's ever been. So for us to get to play with them is nothing but honor and nothing but joy. We've enjoyed every minute. I've enjoyed listening to them play still. They got all the singers, Tom and Patrick and Michael are all out there singing lead. And just in case that's not enough great vocals, they got John Cowan sitting on the bass, and John McPhee. They've got great singers all the way across the band. And I remember from last night what that sounds like, but I also remember from being a teenager in cover bands in Mississippi at the dismal failure that we had trying to sing the vocals of the Doobie Brothers hit back in the 70s. They're so good, and you can learn the music, but you're going to have a hard time singing in the way that those guys put the harmonies together. They're so good at it. So we've got 20 shows with them, but just a joy, and I know Jimmy's smiling down because he loved that band, and he loved our band, and he loved all of the people involved. And the fact that we're out there together, still making folks smile, is making him smile, I'm sure.
Well, good deal. Let's see. Moving forward to next week, you're going to be receiving the ACM Poets Award. And when I look at the people who've received this in the past, I can only imagine what it feels like to have your name among them. I mean, it is just a who's who. I mean, Tom T. Hall, it's a bunch of them.
It feels to me, honestly, Lawrence, it feels to me like one of those "what's wrong with this picture?" But you're right. It's unbelievable to be thought of in the context, in the same phone book as those guys.
Any qualms about getting a lifetime achievement type award?
Well, no, I have no qualms about. You can be honored without necessarily being deserving, and I'm sure you can be deserving without being honored too. But I don't necessarily feel worthy of that. But the fact that there's a group of people that consider me to be is amazing, and it makes me want to try to do something to live up to it. I felt the same way about the Musician of the Year awards from the CMA back over.
There you go.
Over years too. I've never been the flashy guitar solo kind of guy, but the fact that somebody saw some merit in how I go about my business is truly an honor. And to be thought of as a poet without laughter at the end of the sentence it means a lot. And I am a word guy, and I've spent my early life hanging around some great Southern storytellers, and And I think enough of that has rubbed off from those guys. And certainly running 40 years with Jimmy in studio certainly didn't hurt anything either, because he had a literary bent to his songwriting that and obviously he's a prose writer as well. He's succeeded fiction and nonfiction in the New York Times bestseller list. But so getting to hang with he and with those whittling storytellers in Belmont, Mississippi, growing up have manifested in me getting an award that I had no other access to, I'm sure.
You hit the Opry on the 23rd, so you'll have done the Ryman and the Opry this year.
Yeah. Two things I sat in the front porch in Mississippi with my dad listening to the radio, listening to the Opry at the Ryman when I was when I was a tiny fella, and I never even imagined getting to be in the audience in that building, honestly, and to be standing in the middle of that stage. I've done it as a sideman, and now at this point I've done it as a headliner too, and I've done it as an opening act and a guy in a band with getting to play with George Strait or Toby or Steve Warner, Sawyer Brown. I've been so lucky over the years, but just because things better than my dreams came true doesn't make me not appreciate them. I appreciate all of those things, and I appreciate every opportunity to get back on that stage and do my little thing, and for it to somehow fit in with all of the wonderful folks that have come and gone.
Things better than my dreams came true. That sounds like a lyric.
Yeah, let me write. Text that to me.
Let's see. November. I don't want to overlook this because it's my hometown. November 20, you'll be in Florence, Alabama. That's a solo McAnally show, correct?
It is, and it's a fundraiser for the Music Association and Muscle Sound there, and honored to do it. And it's always a joy to be. That's still home for me too. You know, that's my studio still down in Sheffield, and I just got to be a little more careful. The last time I played this show, I got a little overexcited, totally blew my voice all the way out. I couldn't speak for the next 4 days after that.
Oh, no.
I'm going to have to hold back a little bit. You know, that night I went for a couple of high notes that weren't really there, I think.
I skipped over something. October 24, the Coral Reefers will be back at the wharf, which kind of brings us full circle. So, you know, tell me what level of anticipation or what feelings come along with that.
Well, just to go play Jimmy's songs on the ground that they came from is never going to be anything except good to me. You know, so we look forward to any opportunity, and we're grateful to the folks down there and to the Live Nation for having the faith in putting us there again. And it just seems appropriate when you're in the vicinity of those white sand along the Panhandle beaches there to sing Jimmy Buffett songs. It's not just us. We just happen to be Jimmy's band, but pretty much everybody up and down that stretch of beach is singing Jimmy Buffett songs or listening to them, whether we're there or not. But I'm glad we're going to be there while the water's still warm and it's not so hot. I think it's going to be a good thing.
I've come to the end of the list of my bullet points, so this is your opportunity to fill in anything I should have asked but didn't. Or just anything you want folks to know.
I want folks to know that they, whatever amount of time they ever get to spend in the vicinity of my music or my shows or anything that I'm affiliated with, that they're in the vicinity of some lucky son of a gun, because I was a really bashful kid that didn't even play my songs for my parents. And the fact that we're having this conversation some 5+ decades into me being officially a professional musician is so fortunate. It's like I say it's like 6 daisy-chained Old Testament miracles, and there's probably 2 or 3 guardian angels in therapy to help get me to this point. And I'm grateful to all of that, and I'm grateful to anybody that finds any merit in what I'm still getting to do. I love the opportunity to continue.
You can't help but like McAnally. He'll be playing the Opry on Tuesday. The Reefers are at Orange Beach, October 24th. That solo gig in Florence they were talking about is November 20th. Now, if you've never heard McAnally play the Allman Brothers' Little Martha, Google that. Hey, if you have anything you need to get off your chest, remember our voicemail line is set up at 205-304-1814. Leave us an Alabama hot take. We'll be back bright and early Monday morning. Until then, come by and see more of our work on the internet at al.com.